You're after something. Is it revenge? Money? Or is it something else?
Solo: A Star Wars Story is directed by Ron Howard and stars Alden Ehrenreich. Now, I personally didn't really care for a Han Solo spin-off movie, but I was still going to watch it anyways because it's Star Wars and I love Star Wars. And I ended up actually having a really fun time watching this movie. I thought Alden Ehrenreich did a solid job as Han Solo. I kind of felt he was going to be nowhere near as good as Harrison Ford, and he actually did a pretty solid job as Han Solo. Donald Glover, though, was the standout of this film. He is brilliant as Lando Calrissian. It feels like Lando. Like, you see him on screen, you're like, oh, that's Lando. Han and Chewie's relationship throughout the movie was probably my favorite part throughout the film. I actually thought it was really funny and really enjoyable to watch on screen. The action was also really fun. It wasn't amazing, but it was really fun, and there was actually a couple intense moments throughout the movie. There were some plot elements that didn't work for me. Like, there were some ways that they took the story that I wasn't a big fan of. And then the first 10 minutes for me, it felt a little bit goofy. But other than that, this movie was a fun time at the theater, and I'm going to give Solo: A Star Wars Story a 3.5 out of 5 Fernies.
It's time to make some wrong things right. Help me bring supers back into the sunlight. We need to change people's perceptions about superheroes, and Elastigirl is our best play.
Better than me?
Incredibles 2 is directed by Brad Bird and stars Craig T. Nelson and Holly Hunter. I was really anticipating this movie for like the longest time because it did take them 14 years to finally make an Incredibles 2. And I came out of this movie and I really enjoyed watching this film. The thing that I love most about this film is the family aspect and the relationship together. It did feel like a real family, and it felt like the conversations they had, it felt like an actual conversation that an actual family would have in real life. And the standout out of all the family members was definitely Jack. Jack was hilarious, especially one particular scene with him and a raccoon. I also enjoyed how they put Elastigirl in the forefront instead of Mr. Incredible, because that kind of puts a different aspect on the film, and I really enjoyed that part of the movie. I thought the villain was a bit generic, like you kind of predicted what was going to happen to the villain. And then some story elements were a bit predictable, but other than that, this movie was awesome, and I'm going to give Incredibles 2 a 4.5 out of 5 Fernies.
She's tranked. Okay, come on.
Okay. Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom is directed by J.A. Bayona and stars Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. Now, the original Jurassic World film, I thought it was a fun popcorn film, and I thought Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom was the same thing. It was a fun popcorn film as well. I know some people hated the fact that the second half of the film kind of turned into a horror thriller movie when the first half was like a very action, like all out movie, and I actually enjoyed the more thriller and suspenseful part of the movie. But I do think the first half was better than the second half. I thought the first half when they're on the island was a lot more enjoyable than the second half. The performances were also decent. Chris Pratt was being Chris Pratt throughout the movie. Bryce Dallas Howard I thought was pretty good. Jeff Goldblum was pretty good for the 5 seconds that he was on screen. So overall, the performances were decent. The dinosaurs in the movie looked awesome though. Like all the effects looked great. But the villain that shows up more in the second half was awful. Like you don't know a thing about the villain. Like he's just like he has the twirly mustache. He's like ho ho ho, and it's like the villain was horrible. The script for this movie also kind of failed the movie. I thought that's what tanked especially the second half of the film. A lot of the writing was poorly written. So overall, I actually enjoyed most of Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, and I'm going to give this movie a barely good review, a 3 out of 5 Fernies.
You're the attorney whose family they killed.
Not they.
My father.
Póntelos.
And now you hunt them.
Adios.
Sicario 2 Day of the Soldado is directed by Stefano Soima and it stars Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin. Now I was highly anticipating this movie because I adore the first Sicario film, and as soon as the movie started, I was in. Like the score was rocking, it was like gritty, just like the first one. It felt real. Whenever I had to deal with the cartel, it was awesome. Benicio del Toro was great, Josh Brolin was great. And then the second half came, and then it just flipped to a whole other story. The girl in the film who was played by Isabella Moner, and I thought she was pretty decent, but basically the second half it just flips stories like randomly. Like Josh Brolin is trying to chase Benicio del Toro because he has this girl, and Josh Brolin needs to get her back. And it wasn't as investing as the first half where it dealt with like the cartels and stuff and like the border. That storyline was more investing than the second half, and I thought that's where Sicario 2 basically just goes downhill. But the first half was strong enough for me to get this movie to a solid review, and I want to give Sicario Day of the Soldado 3.1 out of 5 Fernies.
So, how long have you been Ant-Man again?
Not long. It just sort of happened.
I wish I could fight bad guys like you.
I seem to mess it up almost every time.
Maybe you just need someone watching your...
Ant-Man and the Wasp is directed by Peyton Reed and stars Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. I was looking forward to watching this movie because I did really enjoy the first Ant-Man film, and I did come out of this movie enjoying Ant-Man and the Wasp. Paul Rudd was great as Ant-Man as always. Evangeline Lilly was really good as the Wasp. Michael Douglas was great as Hank Pym. And the relationship between Ant-Man and the Wasp was really great, and it does drive the movie. And surprisingly, the father and daughter relationship between Paul Rudd and Cassie, who is his daughter in the film, was really good, and it actually surprised me on how much I loved their relationship together. The action was also really fun throughout the movie. And there was 2 villains in the film. There was one, the Ghost, and another villain played by Walter Goggins. Now, I enjoyed the Ghost character, and her motivation I thought worked. Walter Goggins, on the other hand, I thought he was wasted in the film. I thought his villain was not good at all. And I thought some of the story elements was a bit predictable. The story was a bit conventional. The movie was still a fun time at the theater, and I want to give Ant-Man and the Wasp a 3.7 out of 5 Fernies.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it. I wonder, did you ever choose not to?
Mission Impossible Fallout is directed by Christopher McQuarrie and stars Tom Cruise. Now I was really looking forward to watching Mission Impossible Fallout, especially with the previous 3 movies. I really enjoyed Mission Impossible 6, 4, and 5, and 1. 2, we don't need to talk about that one. And I came out of Fallout, and I really enjoyed watching this movie. Tom Cruise is great in this film, like he is in the whole entire franchise. The action, especially the hand-to-hand combat, was awesome, especially the bathroom scene that you see in the trailer between Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill and another henchman. That scene was brilliant. It was also great seeing some returning characters throughout the film from previous films. It was pretty fun seeing them. I thought Cavill was a pretty decent villain. He definitely put in a good performance, but I thought his villain could have been a little bit better. Some of the story elements you can kind of tell were coming but there were some parts of the story that I did enjoy a lot. And with that said, guys, I'm going to give Mission Impossible Fallout a 4.2 out of 5 Fernies.
Oh, I do like a party.
Come on, Pooh.
What should happen if you forget about me?
Silly old bear. I won't ever forget about you, Pooh. I promise. Not even when I'm 100.
Christopher Robin is directed by Mark Forrester and stars Ewan McGregor. I was really looking forward to watching this film because I love what Disney has done with the previous live-action films, and I love Winnie the Pooh, and I came out of this movie really enjoying this movie. Seeing Pooh and friends reunite again, it was absolutely adorable. Jim Cummings returns to voice Pooh, and it's amazing to hear. Ewan McGregor and also did a solid performance. Haley Atwell I also thought was really good, but I also thought she was kind of underused. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty conventional story, but it was just too adorable that I'm going to give this a 3.2 out of 5 Fernies.
The KKK is planning an attack.
How do you propose to make this investigation?
We'll establish contact over the phone. We'll need a white officer to play me when they meet face to face.
You for the white race, Ron?
Oh, hell yeah.
So there becomes a combined Ron Stallworth
Can you do that?
with the right white man.
Black Klansmen is directed by Spike Lee and stars John David Washington. Now, I was really looking forward to this movie because I do enjoy Spike Lee and I do want to see how good of an actor John David Washington is, and I love this movie. The greatest part of this film is that Spike Lee balances the humor and the more intense dramatic parts of the film so well. Like, it's crazy how well he was able to balance things out, because if he didn't, this movie could have been horrible. The performance by John David Washington is awesome. Adam Driver I thought was really good, especially there's an intense scene with him that I think he executed very well. The investigation I thought was also very intriguing, and then you're also invested in their characters because you do see why both of them are a part of this investigation. You do want them to succeed through this investigation. There were a couple scenes in the film where I thought they included a joke, like a small joke, that I thought didn't need to be there, but it wasn't a big issue, just a little nitpick. I also love the music that Spike Lee incorporated into the film. So overall, this movie was awesome, and I'm gonna give Black Klansman a 4.9 out of 5 Fernies. Definitely a great film. And that is it, guys. Those are all the movies I'm viewing for some of the movies that I saw in 2018 that I wasn't able to review. And with that said, guys, look out for the next review, and peace.